Never trust women who obsess over SX positions that scream control, domination, or performance. It's not about passion, it's about power. These women use pleasure as a weapon, not intimacy. Behind the thrill lies manipulation. Watch their patterns. SX isn't the problem, intent is. Don't mistake seduction for sincerity. The way a person expresses themselves intimately often reveals more about their mind than their body. SX is rarely just a physical act. It's an extension of one's beliefs, emotional needs, and psychological patterns. When it comes to women, the positions they prefer during intimacy can offer deeper insights into their personalities, how they navigate control, and how they relate to vulnerability and power. A woman who constantly prefers dominant positions, where she's on top, taking the lead, and in full control, may not simply be exploring her sexuality. In many cases, this preference reflects a deeper need to be in charge, to avoid emotional exposure, or to mask past experiences where she felt powerless. She may fear surrendering control in everyday life and uses intimacy to reclaim that dominance. For her, leading in bed becomes symbolic of leading in life. It's less about connecting and more about maintaining emotional safety by never appearing vulnerable. On the other hand, a woman who always defaults to highly submissive positions may not be surrendering out of love or connection. Sometimes it's a trained behavior, a way to please, avoid conflict, or hide behind passivity. She may believe her worth lies in how well she satisfies others, not in her own voice or preferences. Rather than expressing desire, she plays a role that meets expectations. The position she takes isn't about what she wants, but what she thinks will keep her accepted or protected. Then there's the performer, the woman who switches from one extreme to another, constantly performing exaggerated movements, vocalizations, and enthusiasm. Her preferences may seem wild and adventurous, but what lies beneath could be a craving for validation. She's not always connecting authentically, she's chasing approval. For her, sex becomes an audition, a way to feel worthy, not through emotional closeness, but through how well she can excite and impress. Some women choose specific positions not based on pleasure, but based on power dynamics. For example, a preference for rear entry positions may indicate a desire to detach emotionally or maintain physical closeness without eye contact. For others, it could signal trust and openness. That's the nuance. What's empowering for one woman might be avoidance for another. This is why it's important to observe patterns and ask questions, not just about what she enjoys, but why. Ultimately, preferences in intimacy are never just random. They reflect how a woman feels about herself, her partner, and the relationship. They mirror her views on control, trust, expression, and identity. While it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of what's happening physically, it's the unspoken motivations behind those choices that truly matter. Intimacy is a window into the subconscious, and when you pay attention, it tells a story far deeper than words ever could. Seduction, in its purest form, is meant to be an invitation to intimacy, a mutual dance of attraction. But for some women, seduction is not about connection at all. It is a strategy, a weapon carefully wielded to manipulate, disarm, and control. These are the women who understand the psychological power of allure and use it not to build bonds, but to gain advantage. They know what to say, how to move, and when to touch, not because they feel it, but because they know you will. They study your responses, they mirror your desires, and they shape themselves into what you crave. But behind the scenes, it's all calculated. These women aren't loving, they're managing. They're not seeking to be understood. They're studying you to master the art of influence. A woman who uses seduction as a weapon rarely seeks emotional vulnerability. She's not interested in being known, only in being desired. She crafts experiences that are unforgettable, not because they're intimate, but because they're intense. And for many men, that intensity becomes addictive. It clouds judgment, erases red flags, and opens doors to trust that hasn't been earned. This type of woman may use SX to solidify her power. She knows that men often equate physical connection with emotional loyalty, so she leverages that. She might reward submission with pleasure and punish resistance with emotional withdrawal. She may seem like the ideal partner at first, attentive, exciting, spontaneous, but over time, her affection becomes transactional. You do what she wants, you get rewarded. You pull away or question her motives, and suddenly you're met with coldness, mood swings, or distance. What makes this dangerous is that it's often wrapped in charm. She doesn't come across as aggressive, she seems magnetic. She knows how to make you feel seen and valued, even if it's temporary. And many men, unaware of the deeper game being played, fall for it. They confuse seduction with sincerity, passion with partnership, and intensity with investment. But a woman who uses seduction as a weapon doesn't want partnership. She wants power. She wants control over your mind, your emotions, your decisions. And she'll use your biology against you because she knows most men won't think clearly when aroused. Her favorite SX positions? They're not chosen for intimacy. They're chosen for effect. They make you feel dominant, desired, or devoured. But it's all part of the setup. These women don't need to raise their voices to dominate. Their greatest power is subtlety. And by the time you realize you've been manipulated, you're already too invested, emotionally, financially, or mentally. That's the danger of seduction used as a weapon. It doesn't feel like control until it's too late. Submission, when genuine, is rooted in trust. It's a powerful gesture of vulnerability, especially in a world that constantly teaches us to protect ourselves at all costs. But some women have learned that pretending to be submissive is a more effective way to gain control than openly asserting dominance. This is the illusion of submission, where a woman appears soft, yielding, and dependent on the surface, but underneath is calculating, strategic, and always 2 steps ahead. Many men fall for this illusion because it feeds into their innate desire to feel needed, respected, and in control. A woman who plays this role well will never challenge you directly. She'll agree with you, flatter you, make you feel like the leader. She'll ask for your opinion even when she already knows what she's going to do. She'll pretend to be unsure just to hear you speak and to boost your ego. And in doing so, she makes you feel masculine, essential, and powerful. But the truth is, she's the one directing the show. This kind of woman is not weak. She's observant, emotionally intelligent, and knows exactly how to maneuver situations in her favor. She understands the male psyche well enough to know that appearing submissive often grants her more influence than being openly assertive. While you're thinking you're leading, she's busy steering from the background. She lets you believe the illusion because it serves her purpose. And many times, the men involved don't even realize they've been manipulated because it never felt forced. In the bedroom, this illusion becomes even more convincing. She may choose positions that seem to place her in a submissive role, on her back, beneath you, appearing vulnerable. But her eyes, her timing, her energy will tell a different story. She's not surrendering, she's seducing, she's not yielding. She's orchestrating. Every movement, every sigh, every glance is meant to reinforce the idea that you're in control, when in fact she's using your instincts to secure her power. The danger with this kind of woman is not that she's strong or strategic, it's that her strength is hidden behind a mask of innocence. She's not transparent, and she doesn't want to be. She thrives in confusion and ambiguity. She's the type to make you question your own judgment. Not by arguing, but by acting hurt or misunderstood. She gets what she wants by not asking directly, and if you're not paying close attention, you'll find yourself molded into her ideal without even realizing it. True submission is a choice that comes from mutual respect and trust, but the illusion of submission is a game, one that's played with precision, charm, and calculated restraint. It's not about giving up control, it's about appearing to do so in order to gain more of it. And for the unsuspecting man, this kind of woman can be the most dangerous of all. Some women have mastered the art of feeding a man's ego, not because they admire him, but because they know it's the easiest way to gain his loyalty and blind trust. This is the ego feeder tactic. It's a psychological move where a woman uses praise, admiration, and sexual flattery to make a man feel powerful, desired, and irreplaceable. On the surface, it seems like love, but in reality, it's manipulation, cloaked in compliments and carefully curated passion. A woman who uses this tactic studies your emotional needs. She knows that most men crave respect, appreciation, and a sense of dominance in both life and relationships. So, she gives you exactly that, but with a hidden motive. She tells you what you want to hear, not because it's true, but because it keeps you close. She builds you up, not to empower you, but to disarm you. The more she flatters your ego, the more blind you become to her intentions. In intimate moments, this tactic becomes even more dangerous. These women often choose SX positions that make a man feel in control, positions that emphasize his dominance, his strength, his rhythm. She moans at just the right time. She looks up with admiration. She acts like he's the best she's ever had. But it's not always real. It's scripted, rehearsed, and designed to keep him coming back. He feels like a king with her, but only because she wants something, whether it's commitment, money, protection, or emotional control. The ego feeder doesn't challenge you. She doesn't question your decisions. She lets you lead, even if you're leading in the wrong direction. Because for her, agreement is a strategy. The more you feel validated, the more power she gains. And while you think you're in control, she's slowly shaping your behavior, your beliefs, and your emotional loyalty. You become addicted to how she makes you feel, and in that addiction, you stop noticing the manipulation. This kind of woman is often praised by others as the perfect girlfriend, or the one who truly understands men. But beneath the surface, she's emotionally distant. She gives compliments with strings attached. Her affection is conditional. If you stop playing the role she created for you, if you step out of the fantasy, she withdraws. The praise stops, the affection fades, and suddenly you realize that her love was never unconditional. It was earned only by how well you served her emotional agenda. Men need to be cautious with women who always make them feel like gods. Real love sees you fully, not just your strengths, but your flaws too. A woman who feeds your ego constantly but avoids real conversations, disagreements, or emotional depth is not investing in you. She's investing in your need for validation, and as long as you depend on her for that high, she controls the game. There's a certain type of woman who turns intimacy into a stage performance. Every move is exaggerated, every moan perfectly timed, every glance deliberately seductive. On the surface, it might seem thrilling, like she's deeply passionate, invested, and expressive. But if you look closely, you'll see that what she's offering isn't connection, it's a performance. And behind that performance is often a lack of true emotional depth or authenticity. These women are not necessarily bad, but they are emotionally disconnected. They use performance in the bedroom as a shield, something to hide behind, whether it's insecurity, emotional avoidance, or a desire to control perception. They put on a show instead of being present. The focus isn't on mutual pleasure or vulnerability. It's about being impressive, unforgettable, or dominant. The problem isn't that she's expressive. The problem is that she's acting. A woman who performs more than she connects will often favor intense visual SX positions, anything that feels dramatic or makes her seem like the ultimate fantasy. It's all about aesthetics, camera angles, even if there are no cameras, and giving the illusion that she's totally into it. But the emotional core? Absent. She's not allowing herself to be seen, she's carefully curating how she's perceived. And for men who crave emotional sincerity, this leaves a silent void that becomes impossible to ignore. Many men are initially seduced by this kind of performance. It feeds the ego, excites the senses, and gives the impression of high compatibility. But over time, it becomes clear that something deeper is missing. These women rarely open up about how they feel, what they need emotionally, or what scares them. They keep things on the surface, staying in control by never being truly vulnerable. And when emotional intimacy is required, they often retreat or deflect, choosing spectacle over sincerity. This performance-driven behavior often extends beyond the bedroom. These women may also appear perfect in public, dressed flawlessly, speaking sweetly, always knowing what to say. But their perfection is often a mask, crafted to earn admiration rather than connection. They thrive on attention but struggle with authenticity. They want to be desired, not necessarily known. And that distinction makes all the difference in a lasting, meaningful relationship. When sex becomes a constant performance, the relationship begins to lack substance. Conversations feel shallow. Conflicts get brushed aside or avoided. The connection feels more like a transaction than a union. And men who stay too long in this dynamic often find themselves emotionally starved, constantly wondering why something feels off, even when the chemistry is explosive. Genuine intimacy can't be faked. It requires presence, honesty, and a willingness to be emotionally exposed. When a woman uses performance to replace that, it's often because she doesn't know how, or doesn't want, to connect in a real way. She may keep you entertained, even addicted, but she will rarely make you feel truly seen, heard, or safe.
On this July 5th, when the sky has quieted and the world exhales, speak 4 prayers, 1 for peace, 1 for strength, 1 for forgiveness, and 1 for purpose. Let your words rise like incense. Let them wrap the world in grace. Say them slowly, say them boldly, become them holy. July 5th is not written in history books with the same boldness as the 4th, but it carries a sacred stillness, a weightless power that lingers when the noise fades. The fireworks have fallen quiet, the sky no longer burns in brilliant colors, and the crowds have gone home. It is the morning after celebration, the breath after the shout, the silence that cradles truth. July 5th is a sacred pause, not because it demands attention, but because it allows reflection. In that stillness lies something holy, a moment to sit with what remains after the music ends. It is easy to be swept away by the spectacle of the day before. Flags wave, voices rise, bodies move in joy and pride, and the world hums with activity. But movement without meaning is exhaustion in disguise. July 5th offers what few days do, a chance to listen after the speaking, to feel after the action, and to honor the internal long after the external has quieted. It is the grace note in the song of freedom, the silence that gives rhythm to everything before and after it. There is a kind of wisdom that blooms only in the aftermath. When the dust settles, we can see where we've truly stood. The sacredness of July 5 is not in grandeur, but in gentleness. It calls us not to dance in the streets, but to walk inward. The celebration may end, but the responsibility begins. What is freedom if not a vow we make every day? What is independence if not the courage to face ourselves when no one is watching? July 5th asks no allegiance to noise. It invites us to sift through the ashes of fireworks and find the spark that remains within. It is on this day that we can ask the harder questions. Are we living as free people or merely performing the ritual of liberty? Are we brave enough to pray, to forgive, to reflect, not for a nation, but for the nation within? The country is made of people. The people are made of choices. July 5th is a mirror placed gently before the soul. The stillness of this day is sacred because it allows truth to speak. Not the truth of slogans or the noise of ceremony, but the quiet truth of our own becoming. Where are we headed? Who are we choosing to be when no one hands us a script? The sacred pause is not a break from meaning, it is a return to it. In the hush of July 5th, we find room for gratitude that is not performative but personal. We give thanks not with loudness, but with depth. We honor those who have walked before us by walking with purpose ourselves. This is the day to write prayers in the dirt with our fingers, to speak softly to our ancestors, to ask them what they see in us now. It is the day to bow our heads without demand, to breathe without expectation, and to understand that silence, too, is a teacher. July 5th is not for spectacle. It is for sacredness, for the holding of all that was felt the day before and all that must be lived the day after. We do not need more noise. We need moments that hold us accountable gently and firmly, like a mother straightening her child's collar before they walk out the door. July 5th is that mother, that whisper, that wisdom, not born from volume but from vision, not from display but from depth. It is not loud, but it is holy. It is not seen, but it is felt. It is not the celebration, it is the soul of it. Prayer is not weakness whispered into the void. It is power shaped in silence, strength poured into syllables, and fire cloaked in reverence. Real prayer does not beg, it builds. It does not flatter, it faces. It is the language of the soul when the world forgets how to listen. Prayer, in its truest form, is not just a ritual. It is resistance, a reclaiming of space where chaos has claimed dominion. When a person prays, not as performance, but as presence, something in the universe shifts. The winds listen, the bones remember, the spirit rises. There is a reason that the most powerful people have always known how to pray. It is not about religion, but about relationship, with self, with source, with the unseen. Prayer calls upon something greater than what can be touched, yet it touches everything. A whispered word at dawn can do what 1,000 declarations at noon cannot. It aligns, it centers, it anchors. It does not fix the world, but it transforms the person who dares to speak. And in that transformation, the world begins to bend. People mistake prayer for passivity. They see folded hands and closed eyes and think it means surrender. But there is a sacred kind of surrender that is mightier than conquest. When you pray, truly pray, you are not escaping reality. You are entering it more deeply. You are meeting the moment with spirit sharpened. You are saying, I do not come alone. I come with the wisdom of ages, with the voice of ancestors, with the breath of eternity in my chest. That is not weakness, that is fire. Prayer is not bound by space or time. It can reach a child on the other side of the earth. It can echo through hospital walls, slip into courtroom halls, linger over dinner tables, and hum in the ears of the lost. It is the only language that requires no translation, the only action that cannot be blocked, broken, or buried. Empires have crumbled, not from war, but from the silent prayers of the oppressed. Whole generations have endured because grandmothers and freedom fighters alike lifted names to the heavens with shaking lips and fierce hearts. To pray is to declare that you are not only body, you are soul, not only mind, you are meaning. Prayer reminds us that we are more than flesh moving through days. We are creators, co-authors, dreamers, and divine instruments of will and wonder. When we speak from that sacred place, we are not wishing, we are working in spirit. We are sowing seeds that may bloom long after we're gone, shaping destinies with words no one else hears. It is no small thing to pray, especially in a world that glorifies noise and dismisses stillness. To pause and commune with the unseen is an act of rebellion. It is to say, I believe in something bigger than headlines, louder than sirens, deeper than doubt. Whether you kneel or whisper or walk in silent meditation, when you pray, you are not powerless. You are powerful in ways the world does not measure. Prayer does not always change circumstances, but it always changes presence. It lifts the head, opens the chest, softens the heart, and straightens the spine. It reminds you that you are not forgotten, not forsaken, not alone. And that is power, not the kind that boasts, but the kind that builds. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stays. Not the kind that demands, but the kind that declares, I am here, I am whole, and I am heard. There are 4 prayers that belong to everyone. No matter where you were born, no matter the color of your skin, or the name you whisper when you look up at the stars, these 4 prayers rise from the same place, the center of the human heart. They are not owned by one faith, one tribe, one language. They belong to the breath, the breaking, the becoming. They are as old as sorrow and as fresh as a newborn cry. They are prayers for peace, for strength, for forgiveness, and for purpose. And when spoken with sincerity, they do not stay small. They echo through the marrow. They shift the soul. The first is the prayer for peace. Not the kind found only in treaties or silence between wars, but the kind that calms the storm within. This is the peace that makes sleep possible in a house filled with noise, the peace that softens clenched fists, that tells the heart it can rest. It is not weakness. It is the strength to let go, to stop fighting what cannot be controlled. When someone says, "Let me know peace," they are asking to be held, not by the world, but by something deeper, something unbreakable. To pray for peace is to ask for a home inside yourself, no matter where you stand. Then comes the prayer for strength. Life does not promise ease, and so we do not pray for an escape. We pray for the muscle to endure, the courage to show up anyway, the resolve to walk through fire and not forget our names. Strength is not always about fighting. Sometimes it's about continuing. Sometimes it's the power to forgive, to wait, to rebuild. When someone says, "Grant me strength," they are not asking to be made invincible. They are asking to be reminded that even in the breaking, they are not broken. That what holds them up is not pride, but spirit. The third prayer is for forgiveness. It is the heaviest and the most holy. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not letting anyone off the hook. It is freeing your own hands so you can live again. It is choosing not to carry the wound forever. Some days we must ask to be forgiven for the harm we've done in ignorance, for the words we did not take back, for the moments we forgot who we were. And other days we must offer forgiveness, not because the other person deserves it, but because we do. We deserve to be free. To pray for forgiveness is to invite grace into a place where pain once ruled. It is not always answered quickly, but it always begins the healing. The final prayer is for purpose. The soul does not want comfort alone. It wants meaning. To pray for purpose is to ask, what is mine to do? Why am I here? It is not about fame or fortune. It is about becoming aligned with the truth of one's being. A person with purpose can walk through storms and still shine. Purpose does not protect you from hardship, but it keeps you rooted through it. When someone prays for purpose, they are not asking for a map. They are asking for a compass, a direction, a reason to rise. These 4 prayers are more than words. They are mirrors, showing us who we are beneath the armor. They are bridges, connecting our small voices to something wide and eternal. You do not have to be holy to speak them. You only have to be honest. The world does not need perfect people. It needs people who pray, not because they are certain, but because they are willing to be changed, willing to be lit from within, willing to live the prayer as much as they say it.